As the Kansas City Chiefs have an off day of training camp and they will hit the field tomorrow, I thought I had a little fun talking about the wide receivers and my position values on who I think is going to be impact next year and who I think will make the team and will not make the team. Well, today let's do it with the running backs. And if you haven't checked out my wide receiver video, please go check it out. It is on my page. But today, it's all about the running backs. But before we do dive into the running backs, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I will keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. Without further ado, let's talk about this running back room. Before I do start diving into the running backs, I want to say I do enjoy making these type of videos, basically evaluating the whole team. So if there's a position that you guys want to see me evaluate on this team, drop it in the comments down below and I'll dive a little deeper into it. But let's talk about the running backs and how I'm going to do it. I'm basically going to go 1 through 4, maybe 1 through 5 or 6. I'm going to just spitball them on top of my head. Basically, starters to who's going to make the practice squad and to who's going to get cut and might not have a chance to make this team. Let's jump in right away. We're going to talk about Clyde EdwardsHelaire. I don't care what anyone says or how anyone feels. He is the starting running back on this team until he proves he isn't worth that spot. And honestly, I think he's at a very good camp. He did start it off with a scare when we all thought he was on PUP and we're like, what is going on? We thought this was going to be the healthiest he was ever going to be. We thought maybe we will see the real Clyde EdwardsHelaire in 2022, and now he's hurt. Well, thankfully so. It was the longest PUP list that I've ever seen, and he's been in training camp and he's been looking really, really good. He's been looking elusive, and I don't want to say explosive, but explosive for him because he's not known to be a fast back, but I've seen him hit holes. I've seen him separate too. And also too, he has shown the ability that we all knew he had in his hands, and he's been involved more in the passing game too. That was the reason he was drafted to KC. And in fact, like I mentioned, I don't know if it's a Clyde EdwardsHelaire thing or if it's a coaching thing that he hasn't been utilized in the passing game. That needs to change this year because he could be a hidden gem in this offense where we all thought he was going to like evolve in this league like rookie year when he basically exploded against the Texans, and we're like, wow, we have our great replacement after Kareem Hunt. And then it just slowly got quiet, slowly started dying down the hype, and then the injury started kicking in, and then the injury started derailing the type of player he could be in this league. Let's hope this is a huge bounce back for Clyde EdwardsHelaire. And honestly, for CEH, I think it could be a big year. Now, a big year in my perspective is I think he could be a 1,000-yard all-purpose back and maybe over 10+ TDs. That might not be crazy to a lot of people, but when you set, I think it's not a low bar, but an expectation like that, I think it's something he can hit. I'm trying to be realistic with these things because, yeah, it's realistic, but also, too, I think it's a goal and a limit he could reach because he's never done it in his career, but I think he has the potential to do it. And also, too, basically with everyone against him, basically with almost half of Chiefs Kingdom wanting either Ronald Jones ahead of him, a Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco. They're looking for the future, and a lot of people don't believe that's Clyde EdwardsHelaire, but if he balls out this year, it's going to be hard to replace him. At the 2 spot, I'm going to mention 2 guys because honestly, I don't know how to evaluate them, and I do not know how to view them whatsoever because both guys, they could be your backup running back for Clyde EdwardsHelaire, or they might not make the team. That's how like wide open this is for me. And a lot of people might think I'm crazy when I think they might not make the team. But I'm going to start off with Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones has shown some very impressive plays throughout training camp too. And also too, there's been moments where he's been silent. But I've seen where he's broken very long runs and the potential he can have in this offense. And that's something I'm excited to see. But also there's a part, whatever you want to say, that I could see him not making this team. And it's all for the guy that I'm going to mention later on, who Chiefs Kingdom already knows who I'm about to talk about. And I think Ronald Jones needs to be more apparent in this offense, like in training camp. And again, it's just training camp, so we'll see how it evolves throughout preseason and how much of an impact or how much involved he is in the playbook that Reed has with them. But right now, I'm not seeing that much. I'm seeing a lot of CEH heavily involved, unless I'm missing it. But right now, I kind of seeing like Ronald Jones with the third stringers, which pauses me a little bit because we all had high expectations for him coming in. There's a lot of Chiefs Kingdom thinking he's going to take CEH's job, which I'm not slighting you whatsoever because there's a good possibility if CEH struggles again, you would think Ronald Jones would be the next guy up. And with the potential he has, with the speed he brings, and with the asset he has where he can catch the ball too, It'd be very interesting to see. But he's also battling in the number 2 position but Ronald Jones is also battling that second spot with Jerick McKinnon. And Jerick McKinnon is an interesting guy to talk about because I don't know how to evaluate him in this offense either. Because it could be he's on the team and he has a great role on this team, or he doesn't make it to day one. I can see both of those as well. I can see either one of these guys being cut, and I can see both of these guys making the team. It's just crazy because this the wide receiver. I'm stuck on the wide receivers. This running back room is so big and filled that anybody can go and anybody can stay. It's just how you prove your worth in camp. With McKinnon, we all know he started his year off last year hurt, and then once he got off IR, he started showing what he was capable of doing in the running game, in the pass catching game, and then in the playoffs. He had a playoffs like no other. I think it was from the stretch from week 16 all the way to Cincinnati. He was showing like he could have, just imagine what could have been if he was a starter all the way around. But it's interesting to see where we would pick up with Jerick McKinnon because he had that sports hernia surgery, which kind of silenced his offseason, and a lot of us were hoping we would get him back. But then once we signed Ronald Jones, it was like, okay, that was another chapter turn, another page turn, so that is done. But then we end up bringing him back after the draft. Well, me in specific, I'm like, why? Like, look how loaded this running back room is. Where is he in need on this offense? And that's not taking no slight to what Jerick McKinnon can provide for this offense. That's just basically how huge this running back room is, and especially after the draft, when you draft a kid, you have another high talented undrafted guy. I just didn't see the need there, and it's interesting to see, but maybe he still has a role on this team. We'll just have to see, because when it comes to Ronald Jones and Jerick McKinnon, I'm fighting in my head to find out how both of these guys actually make the team. I feel like one of these guys will be cut. It's going to be interesting to see once we get to the 3rd preseason game, and then when final camp cutdowns come. It might shock a lot of people if one of these guys get cut, but I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Now, the 3rd guy I'm going to mention, he has a potential to be a number 2 at the end of the year, honestly, and maybe if things go way south, maybe a number 1, but Isaiah Pacheco. Yes, he's your starting kick returner right now. He has the hype train crazy for Chiefs Kingdom. Everybody is on that bandwagon. Everyone is hoping for the best for this kid because he has been showing out every single day. And you guys already know when I talk about Isaiah Pacheco, he's here to take a grown man's job, and he proves it every single day. And he seems like the hugest steal in the draft so far, definitely in the 7th round. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role he's going to have on this team. When I say that, yes, he's making this football team. I don't think that's a question anymore. The way they found a way to get him on special teams, and then not even just on special teams, to make him the starting kick returner right away and make him lose that job, that just shows you how much the organization loves this kid. And then he's got that top end speed, and he's got power too. When you hear him being compared to a Kareem Hunt, that drives Chiefs Kingdom in awe, because we all want Kareem Hunt back, because we live in the what could have been type of stages, because Kareem Hunt was everything we looked for in a running back, and then unfortunately the situation happened, and then our running game was basically downhill from there, and we've been looking to fill that hole ever since. So when you compare an Isaiah Pacheco to a Kareem Hunt, we're all going to go crazy about it, because that's what we've been looking for. I have big expectations for Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe not like I'm saying like week 1 he's going to be a 100-yard rusher and then be a 1,000-yard rusher throughout the season. What my big expectations are is he's going to be a big impact, and he's going to have at least 5 to 8 plays drawn up maybe every game for him. It's going to be interesting to see. I think in September he's going to prove his value on special teams, and then when he proves he can play in this offense in October and November, maybe CEH and Isaiah Pacheco is your two-headed monster. I don't know if that's a bold prediction or not. Maybe he gets ahead of a Ronald Jones. Maybe he gets ahead of a Jerick McKinnon. I know that might be crazy to think, but I'm on that hype train. I might be driving that train. That's how much big of a fan I am of Isaiah Pacheco and what I think his value could be for this team. Now let's dive into the roster bubble. And honestly, I think these two guys are fighting for a spot. And honestly, they're probably going to be more practice squad candidates or trade potential candidates. Because I think if Kansas City is going to roll with 4 backs, those are going to be your 4 guys that I mentioned to start the video. They've done it before. I think at most they'll run with 3. That's why I say either Jerick McKinnon or Ronald Jones might be more in danger. I think the most solidified spots right now is CEH and Isaiah Pacheco. But let's start with the guy who I think has found the way out. And it's kind of crazy to say because he played a role in Kansas City's offense last year. And that's Derrick Gore. We haven't heard too much about him, but we know what kind of potential he brings to this team, what kind of role he can play. He plays that next man up type of role too. And honestly, I think he's a good trade candidate. I think I could see Veach like pulling off a trade. Like if someone loses a running back, he can get a 6th round pick out of Derrick Gore. Derrick Gore has some speed too. He's a good power back, and he has good hands too. Like, which was surprising to me to see someone that big and that stature have good hands too. It's unfortunate to see Derrick Gore kind of sliding down the roster too, but that's every year things changes. And yeah, he was the number 2 back at one point last year. The number 1 back. He was getting most of the carries, and now he's fighting for a way on this roster. I don't see him making this team, and it's going to be hard for me to say he's going to make the practice squad too. That's why I'm putting him as a trade candidate, because I wouldn't be surprised late August that Brett Veach, you just see it, Kansas City Chiefs trade Derrick Gore for a 6th round pick. You're going to have to rewind this video because it's going to happen. I just feel it. And then the next guy I'm going to talk about, who I think is also catching some eyes too, is Jerick McKinnon. I think this is your prime practice squad candidate right here. I think he's making the practice squad. If this running back room wasn't so deep, he would make the team, honestly. I don't even want to basically say he's a running back. He's like a Deebo Samuel, and I'm not sliding Deebo Samuel, and I'm not putting Jerick McKinnon on that level either, but you could put Jerick McKinnon anywhere on the field, and he will produce, and he will be very good with the football in his hands. And he plays wide receiver, he plays running back, kick returner, punt returner. Wherever you put him out on the field and he gets the ball in his hands, he will make a play. Like I mentioned, if this running back room wasn't so deep, I could see him fighting for that 3rd spot or 4th spot. But because this running back room is so loaded, he's going to be a practice squad candidate, and I hope we can get him on the practice squad because I could see him showing out in the preseason too, and he'll catch a lot of people's eyes. And I'm just hoping someone doesn't nab him away from the Kansas City Chiefs, because as we know with the Chiefs too, even how deep they are, or even who you think is a starter in this running back room, they can't avoid the injuries in the running back room. I don't know when the last time we've seen a running back start all 17 games now for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's been a running back by committee. So if you could stash someone like a Jerick McKinnon on the practice squad, and if someone does get hurt, you could bring him up and then he can have some play time. Let's just hope no one claims him, because I think he is a good asset, and especially in the future too. If you give him 2 to 3 years to learn in this system, and then he can elevate himself into the starting running back room, that would be something exciting to see. And I'm rooting for him too. Like, it's hard to choose between Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon, but Isaiah Pacheco, like I said, he's just been going crazy lately. So it's easy to jump on that train, but there's a Jerick McKinnon hype train there. It's just the steam is just not pushing as hard as the Isaiah Pacheco right now, but I definitely see him having a role on this team, if not on the practice squad. And with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I do not have a play for today for you, because the Kansas City Chiefs did not practice, but they will return tomorrow. That means I will return tomorrow with more roster updates, with more training camp news that you do not want to miss out on. Let me know how you rank this running back room. Let me know who you think is going to make this team. Who's going to be the starter? I know a lot of y'all don't feel CEH is going to do it. Let me discuss it with you in the comments down below. But before I do close this video out, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video. It's just that simple. With that, I'm checking out. Y'all take care.